Sir, we're good.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll call the second part of the May 21st, 2026 open meeting of the London Police Service Board to order. During our closed meeting earlier today, we discussed legal, HR, and financial matters. Before we begin, I'd just like to note that the chief's a little bit closer to me today. We are missing our Chief Governance Officer, Stephanie Johansson, so she won't be here for today's meeting. She's actually graduating with her MBA, so congratulations to her, and it's definitely another accreditation that will be very, very useful for this board. So we congratulate Stephanie on that significant milestone. Today's agenda includes several important governance and oversight items. Two items in particular respond directly to prior board motions from previous meetings. First, the board will receive the artificial intelligence technology use presentation, including body-worn cameras, which was requested by the board in conjunction with a motion to approve our AI technology use and body-worn camera project policies in April. And the presentation is intended to support immediate board awareness and oversight before the first annual technology compliance and risk report begins in 2027. Second, the board will consider the chief's inspector governance province-wide inspection on integrity and anti-corruption practices readiness report. The report responds to the board's earlier direction at the February board meeting for a proactive service level review and action plan related to the IG's province-wide inspection. Members, I'll look to see if there's any disclosures of interest before we proceed. Seeing none. Member Branscombe, just want to ensure you can hear us all right. Perfect. I do want to note that we do have Member Branscombe joining us virtually, as well as Member Wallace, who will be coming in as well in a few moments. Any introduction of new business, members? Seeing none, I would like to reference the LPSB correspondence document 2605001 in your package. The board has before it the correspondence reference document, which was provided to City Council pursuant to the board's motion requesting that the municipality confirm the board's size at 7 members. We have been advised that this matter has been added to the city's strategic priorities and policy, also known as SPPC committee, for May the 28th meeting on their agenda for consideration. No motion is required at this time, just for information purposes, and we'll wait to hear back from the city on how that is dealt with. I'm going to put on the floor the minutes of the April 16th, 2026 London Police Service Board open meeting. Any comments, errors, omissions, corrections? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 16th? Thank you very much. Moved by Member Lang, seconded by Member Lehman. Any comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. I will now move into item number 2 of your agenda under support services, the AI technology use, the AI technology use presentation, including body-worn cameras, as well as the corresponding report 2605 SS01. The item before the board is for information item and follows the board's April motion approving the artificial intelligence technology use policy and body-worn camera policy. At the board meeting, at the previous board meeting, we directed the service to present on AI technologies, including body-worn cameras, today. The purpose was to support immediate board awareness and oversight while new policies are being implemented and before the first annual technology compliance and risk report is presented, as I mentioned, in 2027. The April motion specifically asked for information on current AI use, the service's risk assessment approach, and as well as safeguards to support policy compliance and lawful, ethical, and accountable use of this technology. The board's role is to maintain oversight of compliance, transparency, privacy, legal and ethical risk, and public accountability. This is especially important because AI and related technologies can affect privacy, public trust, service delivery, and the way decisions are supported within policing, and we acknowledge we've heard that from the public. The use of AI is becoming increasingly prevalent in policing and requires a lot of consideration in terms of future planning and strategic planning at that. As you know, a public motion was passed forward at the July 16, 2025 meeting, where we moved to end the current strategic plan 1 year early and develop a new CSBA compliant strategic plan for the years 2027 to 2030. That plan will include measurable outcomes and priorities informed by the extensive community consultations undertaken by the board, and will consider the future of AI and technology in policing in the City of London. With that, I'll turn it over to our CAO, Roger Ramkasoon, for introduction before introducing your guests who will provide the presentation. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So in the next couple of minutes, you will hear a presentation from the staff. The presentation will be divided into 5 distinct sections: evolution of AI within policing, alignment with our current 2024 to 2027 strategic plan. We're going to delve a bit into governance and safeguards, and in this section, we'll also talk about privacy impact assessments to align with the government of Canada. AI tools currently used at LPS, and we're going to get a brief demonstration as well. With us today, we have PM Esteban, we have Director Morgan, and Inspector Lipsky, who will take the floor to proceed with the presentation. So at this time, I will turn it over to you.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Also, sorry.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Jargos and members, thank you for the opportunity to present to you today on our emerging development of artificial intelligence products with the Lund Police Service. We're going to speak today about governance, responsible use, and responsible adoption. So before we get into specific tools, specific use cases, and governance details, we just wanted to start by sharing the principle that guides our approach to our AI strategy. And that is, like on the screen, people decide and AI assist. So the importance to this is that AI can help our members work more efficiently. It can support tasks like document drafting, summarizing, data searching and organizing, but it does not replace the professional judgment of our people. And it doesn't replace our discretion or accountability. So there's 3 principles that we will follow in everything we do that support this. The first is privacy. Privacy not only of our operations, but the privacy of the people that we serve. And it must be protected, and it must be protected in everything we do with AI. The second is accountability. AI outputs must be traceable, must be reportable, and our members must remain responsible for how the outputs are reviewed and used. And third is the human element. So a qualified person must always have the opportunity to verify AI outputs before they're relied upon. This is the foundation for the rest of our presentation, that AI can support the work, but people remain responsible for decisions, actions, and outcomes. So with that established, I'm going to turn it over to Director Jack Morgan to provide more context on what we mean by artificial intelligence, how the tools are becoming relevant in modern policing, and why responsible adoption is necessary to support the LPS strategic plan and the work of the service.
Thanks, Inspector. What we want to do first is establish an understanding of what we mean by artificial intelligence. The term is used broadly, and AI capabilities have evolved significantly over time. Artificial intelligence can be understood as technology that analyzes data, generates outputs to support and inform human decision-making. In practical terms, it can help process information, identify patterns, summarize content, generate drafts, translate language, and support more efficient workflows. AI is not new. Early forms of AI date back decades and were largely based on rule-based systems and predefined logic. In the 1990s, AI became associated with specialized systems, such as IBM Deep Blue, which defeated world chess champion Garry Kasparov. In the 2000s and 2010s, AI became part of everyday life through search engines, fraud detection, recommendation systems, and other items. A simple comparison is a calculator. A calculator can complete math faster than somebody doing it manually, but the person still has to choose the right calculation, understand the context, check whether or not the answer makes sense, and decide how to use the result. The calculator analogy is useful because it reinforces that AI is not about replacing skill, judgment, or accountability. It's about helping people work more efficiently. That matters in policing because the volume and complexity of information our members manage continues to grow. Modern policing involves reports, video and digital evidence, disclosure material, administrative records, and information spread across multiple systems. AI can help members manage that volume more efficiently. It can support search, summarization, pattern recognition, evidence review, video analysis and redaction, and reduce repetitive administrative work. These capabilities are increasingly being used by police services in Ontario, across Canada, and internationally. They're also becoming standard features in modern policing technology platforms. For the community, this offers several benefits. AI can support faster investigations, more timely and consistent disclosure, improved communication and accessibility, and more member time focused on frontline policing and community engagement. The principle remains clear. AI assists our members. It does not replace judgment, discretion, or decision-making. Another reason we need to address AI directly is that it's not something the organization can simply opt out of. AI capabilities are increasingly built into the tools our members use every day, including productivity software, operating systems like Microsoft Windows, and enterprise applications. At the same time, public AI tools are widely available and easy to access. Many people are already familiar with them in their personal lives, so there's a risk that they may be used in the workplace if clear direction and approved options are not provided for our members. If members use public tools through personal accounts or devices, sensitive operational or personal information could be entered into systems that are not approved, not monitored, and not controlled by the LPS. Providing approved tools gives the organization a safer and more controlled path. It allows us to set clear expectations, provide training, apply safeguards, and maintain visibility into how these tools are being used. The goal is not to block this technology, it's to ensure it's used in a secure, controlled, and accountable way. Another reason we're advancing AI is that it directly supports the direction already set by the board and the LPS to help deliver on priorities already established in the 2024 through 2027 LPS strategic plan. Under the strategic priority Our People, the strategic plan speaks to adapting to the needs of an emerging workforce. AI supports this by providing modern tools such as natural language search, summarization, and assisted drafting to our members. Under the strategic priority Our Community, the plan identifies evidence-based deployment and effective response to calls for service. AI can support this through better data analysis, pattern identification, improved call handling, translation, and more timely access to information. Under the priority Our Work, the plan calls for using technology to improve effectiveness and efficiency. AI supports this by improving how information is processed, searched, analyzed, and used. Key point is that AI is not creating new priorities. It's one of the tools that can help LPS deliver on the priorities already established in the strategic plan. AI also aligns with the LPS technology strategy, which identifies AI as an emerging capability requiring evaluation as part of broader modernization efforts. The focus is on improving how information is accessed, processed, and used across the organization. Taken together, the strategic plan and the technology strategy show why AI is relevant to the LPS. It supports our members, improves service to the community, and helps modernize how information is used across the organization. Having said that, realizing those benefits require structure. Because AI can affect how information is processed and how decisions are supported, it must be implemented with the appropriate governance, controls, and oversight. I'll now turn it over to Inspector Lipsky to speak to the governance framework, risk modeling, and current and futures control that will guide responsible AI adoption.
Yeah, before I continue, I'm going to jump way back because as soon as I left the podium, I realized I got my first mistake out of the way immediately. I forgot to properly introduce us. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm the inspector of the Strategic Services Branch, so I lead the project managers. Jack is the Director of Information Technology, and Chris is our project manager who has led most of our technology-related modernization initiatives, including body cameras, in-car cameras, digital evidence management, and now AI tools. You threw me off by mentioning the podium. Okay, so as we modernize our policing methods, AI will play a pivotal role in furthering the London Police mission to ensure the safety and well-being of London's communities when implemented responsibly and ethically. The fundamental requirement of AI implementation is to ensure our use aligns with our values of professionalism, integrity, compassion, courage, and community. So there are four components to our evolving AI oversight structure. First is our LPS AI procedure. The LPS AI procedure must be aligned with the Police Service Board policy and will provide clear, consistent, and lawful direction to our members in the performance of their duties. It will govern how members perform their duties in specific operational, administrative, and technological contexts. The scope includes defining authorized actions, limitations, responsibilities, and safeguards. The second key component is the LPS AI Governance Committee. So the LPS AI Governance Committee will be the body responsible for assessing AI proposals that are received from the project teams and for determining and applying the appropriate risk classification. The Governance Committee will make recommendations to the teams, to the Executive Command Team, and to the Police Service Board as appropriate regarding potential implementation of products. The Governance Committee will also advise on changes and updates to the AI governance structure as we learn and evolve in the AI space. Third component is ongoing monitoring. So platform owners, and by platform owners, I mean our members, the people within the organization who are responsible for specific AI tools. They will be responsible for continuous monitoring of AI systems to ensure ongoing compliance with LPS AI procedure, as well as with the currently applicable risk categorization. So this ensures that as the tools evolve, as they change and they're upgraded, we maintain a reasonable and justifiable position on the use of that application. And finally, the fourth component is reporting. So here we're talking about reporting requirements to the LPS Executive Command Team, to the Police Service Board, and to the citizens of London, ensuring that our activities are in line with the Police Service Board policy requirements. Okay, so up to this point, all of the AI tools or products that we currently have in development or that we've been looking at to bring into development have undergone significant review and vetting, and it typically involves these 5 steps. I don't think that's very clear, but so we start in the beginning with product identification. So either the project team or another internal stakeholder within the service identifies a potential AI tool and completes an initial assessment. And what we're looking for at this stage is to identify a need, a value, and a potential benefits. Once that's been completed, it typically comes to the project team for further vetting. So the project team will dive a little deeper, evaluate the technology, determine a necessity for that solution, as well as potential benefits and risks. And we include in this identifying the process which will be required to procure and or implement the product. Once we pass that and we're content, it moves on to an environmental scan. So we know in policing in the modern age, it's very important that we learn from our colleagues, both provincially and nationally. So we will reach out, we'll conduct an environmental scan, we'll learn who's using this product, who has experience with it, who else might be looking at it, and who has lived experience that we can rely on to assist with our processes. We're still like it at that point, then we would head to the privacy impact assessment and cybersecurity review stage. So before we move any further with any product, it's essential that we conduct a thorough evaluation and that we identify and address any associated risks related to cybersecurity or privacy. The privacy impact assessment is the evaluation process that is designed to expose and identify potential privacy-related risks and ensure that the LPS initiatives are compliant with applicable legal requirements. The privacy impact assessment process is about safeguarding the privacy of the community that we serve. Finally, the legal review. So sometimes the legal review is kind of combined with the privacy impact assessment. But the legal review is essential to ensuring that service is well positioned in the adoption of an AI tool and is not taking on or creating any undue risk or liability. So to this point, all of the tools that Chris is going to speak about later in the presentation have undergone this structure. So to look a little more detailed into what that review looks like and the specific things that we're looking for, there's 3 priorities in each of the decision-making process and the operational implementation of the potential tools. So in the decision-making process, the structured evaluation. So this really speaks to the necessity. Like I said earlier, we don't want to implement products just because they seem interesting or exciting, and there's many of those. It has to have a reason. It has to have a specific purpose that supports community trust, community safety, or organizational wellness. And the second component is the human in the loop. And this is absolutely critical. If an AI tool does not allow for a human in the loop, then there's no need for further evaluation because it's not a tool that we would be interested in adopting. And the third in the decision tree is verification. We need verification of AI correlated data. AI tools must allow for review and confirmation of the outputs by the members who are using them. On the operational side, security. We have to maintain security of our existing systems and data. Monitoring. AI use must be able to be monitored on a continuous basis to evaluate our operational security. And protection of our existing frameworks. Current cybersecurity, privacy, and records management systems cannot be compromised in the adoption of AI tools. The degradation of any established system would prevent the implementation of an AI tool. Chris. So our governance of AI tools is predicated on these 7 foundational priorities. These priorities are identified in the London Police Service Board policy. These priorities are directly informing AI decision-making in the London Police Service and provide the North Star reference point to direct AI governance within the police service. Seems like I like lists. So legality and human rights. Protecting the privacy and the rights of the public is paramount to making ethical and responsible AI risk classifications. It's also critical to building a safer community by strengthening community trust and adherence to the highest standards of service delivery. Fairness. It's incumbent upon us as a police service to strive to reduce and eliminate bias. And this concept applies to AI tools and must be factored in to any AI implementation. Justifiability, again, this goes back to what we previously discussed. We have to have a specific purpose for any AI-enabled solution that we employ. The purpose needs to be aimed at goals such as strengthening investigative excellence, enhancing community and officer safety, or creating administrative efficiencies. Accountability is also crucial in maintaining legitimacy. All use of AI within the London Police Service must be documented. It must be auditable, and it must be clearly reportable and governed by consistent governance frameworks. Transparency. The LPS is adopting transparent procedures and is creating a platform for public visibility to our AI initiatives. We understand and we value the importance of community support in the pursuit of our mission. So the embrace of AI technology as a part of our broader modernization is not secret, and it will not be conducted behind closed doors. Number 6, privacy. So we spoke earlier about privacy. We'll probably mention privacy a few more times. It's because it is so key. If an AI product or service is not inherently designed with privacy considerations at the forefront, then it's not a solution that will be consistent with our expectations and standards. And finally, 7, meaningful engagement. Meaningful engagement for me really draws back to accountability and transparency. London Police Service is a partner to the community, and public engagement and information sharing surrounding AI use will be consistent with other recent initiatives, such as the body-worn camera deployment. So we'll talk just quickly about risk classification. So we have to recognize that not all uses of AI carry the same level of risk. For example, tools used for drafting emails, summarizing documents, they present a much lower level of risk than other tools that may help to provide information to inform operational or investigative decisions. So we need to adopt an approach that is risk-based and proportionate. We don't want to inhibit the ability to use lower risk applications under appropriate guidance, but higher risk applications require more formal review, oversight, and controls. We are aiming to ensure that governance is proportionate, and we don't, I covered that. So as the identified risk level increases, so does the decision-making authority. Very, very important that throughout this process, we remember risk classification is ongoing. As product features change, updates are created, specifications change, we have to be fluid and reevaluate our risk classifications so that we ensure that the classification remains appropriate. So this is where everything comes full circle. So on the right-hand side is where we've brought our products to date, and the left-hand side, the blue, is where we're going. So after those initial 5 review steps, if we've identified a product as something that we feel that we need and we want to pursue, this is where we would present to the LPS AI Governance Committee for a decision on risk classification. Based on that risk classification, this may go to the board, it may go to the executive command, and decisions will be made based for procurement and implementation of that product. The maintenance of an accessible and visible public inventory is ongoing, routinely evaluated and updated. And then finally, an annual report to the Police Service Board will provide a review of all LPS AI activities for the previous period. We'll provide further transparency to the board and to the community, and we'll close the loop on the overall AI governance structure for the London Police Service. I'm going to turn it back to Jack to speak briefly about one application that's currently in use.
Thanks, Inspector. Okay, so building on the governance and controls just discussed, I'd like to now speak about Microsoft 365 Copilot. That's the only generative AI productivity application that's currently in use at the LPS. So LPS conducted a controlled pilot of Microsoft Copilot to evaluate the operational value of AI-enabled productivity tools in our environment. The pilot included 250 members across multiple divisions who are required to complete training and follow strict usage requirements set out in a routine order. Copilot is built into the Microsoft 365 tools our members already use, including Microsoft Word, Outlook, Excel, and Teams. It assists with tasks such as drafting documents and emails, summarizing meetings and reports, searching for information, and organizing content using natural language prompts. Importantly, this occurs within our secure Microsoft 365 environment, where existing permissions, controls, and data protections apply. The pilot demonstrated clear operational value. Participants reported an average time savings of approximately 4 hours per week, which represents an estimated 10% efficiency improvement. From an organizational perspective, this reduces time spent on lower value administrative work, which creates additional capacity for members to focus on core operational priorities. Copilot is now in use as an enterprise productivity tool within LPS. It's being used to support productivity and information management tasks. It's not a decision-making tool. Members remain responsible for reviewing, validating, and applying judgment to any content that's produced with its aid. As part of our broader AI governance approach that we've been discussing here, Copilot will also be reviewed under the forthcoming LPS AI procedure, and the governance committee will assess it once that committee is established. Overall, Copilot is a practical example of how AI can deliver measurable benefits when deployed in a secure environment with training, acceptable use requirements, human oversight, and appropriate controls. I'll now hand it over to our project manager, Chris Esteban, to speak to operational AI technologies that are currently under evaluation.
Thank you, Director Jack Morgan. All right, so the first tool that I want to walk through is policy chat. So picture this, an officer is in the field and they need to know the right procedure for that situation in front of them. The London Police Service runs on hundreds of internal procedures and directives. Finding the right one quickly matters. Today, that often means scrolling through a long list of files or pulling a supervisor away from their work to ask that specific question. Policy chat is being introduced as an internal reference assistant. It works much like a search engine, but instead of returning a list of documents, members can ask in plain language question and get an answer drawn directly from the approved services procedure. What this tool does not do matters just as much. It cannot reach case files. It cannot pull up information or personal information, and it has no connection to the open internet. It's a closed system scoped only to the service's own procedural library. The benefit is practical. Members get faster, more consistent answers when they need to apply the right procedures in the moment. New members without having to interrupt a colleague, and every answer is grounded in the actual procedure document, which the member can read in full if they choose to or need to. So again, the principle here is simple. It supports members. It does not make decisions for them, and a person remains responsible for any action taken. I want to walk you through two tools that we are evaluating, both connected to moments where time really matters. One is dispatch, and the other is real-time investigations. So these are tools that the public should understand because they touch frontline work in a direct way. So let me explain what each one actually does, and just as important, what each one does not do. So first, prepared 911. If you have ever called 911, you know that a person on the other end of that line is doing one of the hardest jobs in our service. Our call takers handle high volumes of emergency calls, often making split-second judgment while the caller is still on the line. As a caller, prepared 911 listens to that live audio alongside the call taker. As the caller speaks, it surfaces information that may help, flagging keywords related to potentially weapons, medical emergencies, or violence in progress. Again, does not replace the call taker. The call taker will still controls the call, asks the questions, decide what to dispatch, and remain fully accountable for every choice. The tool is there for one reason, again, to make sure that critical information the caller is sharing does not get missed under pressure. The second is Fusus, a real-time crime center platform. When investigators are working a serious incident, they often need to review evidence from many sources, business cameras, public-facing infrastructure, and so on. Today, that often means physically going door to door, collecting footage, one camera at a time. Fusus changes that. It consolidates camera feeds that partners, businesses, and infrastructure owners voluntarily registered with the service into a single view investigators can now use during specific authorized investigations. And the boundaries on this tool are clear and worth stating directly. It does not use facial recognition. It does not use for live monitoring of public spaces. Every use is logged and attributable to a named member, and access is governed by approved London Police Service procedure. Both of these tools represent meaningful operational benefit, and both raise important considerations around privacy, transparency, and accountability. Evidence and report writing tools. Attribute search, draft one, and brief one. So the next category is evidence and report writing. 3 tools here, and these are areas where AI is becoming increasingly common in policing across Canada. So let me explain what each one does and where the boundaries are. The first is attribute search. Imagine investigators working a case where there are hundreds and hundreds of hours of digital video evidence to review. This is not unusual in serious cases today. Attribute search lets the investigator describe an object in plain language. For example, a blue sedan with a roof rack. And the tool helps locate that object across video evidence already lawfully collected for that specific authorized investigation. Again, to be clear, this is not facial recognition. This does not search public networks. Each search is scoped to one authorized investigation. Every search is logged and every search is tied to a named member. The second is draft one, which supports report writing. Officers spend a significant amount of time at the end of every shift writing reports of incidents that they responded to. That's hours of typing, often after a long and demanding day. Draft one uses the audio from the body-worn camera to produce, and again, this is key, a first draft of the narrative report. Repeat, a first draft of the narrative report. The officer then reviews that draft, makes corrections, and personally signs the report before it enters the record. The officer is and remains the author and the accountable party. The tool is there to reduce the time spent typing what the officer already lived through so they can spend more time on calls and on the street assisting our community. The third is brief one, which supports case file preparation. When a case heads to Crown Counsel, the file can run to thousands and thousands of pages of records and documents. Brief one produces a structured summary of those content to help the investigators navigate files efficiently. To sum it all up, so like others, it's a drafting aid. The investigators remain the authoritative reader of the case, and the summary is never a substitute of the underlying evidence. These tools directly touch evidentiary integrity, disclosure obligations of the courts, and member accountability for what is in their report. This is why each one will be carefully reviewed before any deployment decision is made. Analytics and body-worn camera AI tools. So there's 2 tools to walk through here, and there are at different stages of process. One is an early stage evaluation. The other, we are ready to put into operational use. I want to be clear about what each tool does and where each one stands today. So the first is an operational analytical platform. The service collects and uses a significant amount of operational data every day, from dispatch records to incident records, digital evidence records in our evidence management system. Today, much of that data lives in separate systems that do not talk to one another or siloed from one another. We are exploring whether a single analytical platform could give the organization a shared, consolidated view, particularly to support planning, decisions, large event coordination, and major investigation oversight. I want to emphasize again, this is an early evaluation. When we move forward, the tool will be evaluated through our governance framework and brought to the board with the appropriate level of review. The second is the body-worn camera AI Air bundle from Axon. So this vendor that supplies, or Axon, that vendor that supplies the cameras, our members wear in the field. As those camera system evolves, vendors are introducing AI capabilities into them. The specific capability we are ready to put into service is auto translation of recorded audio. London is one of the most linguistic diverse cities. During time of critical incidents, members often need to communicate with residents who do not speak English. So auto translation supports faster understanding and during urgent calls. Unlike the analytics platform I just described, this capability is ready to go live. So to sum it all up, takeaway across all 4 slides in this section is straightforward. The service is moving deliberately. Some of these tools are for operational use, Others are still under evaluation. However, in each case, the principle remains the same. Board oversight throughout and a clear public record of what we are adopting and why.
I always like to finish things with a good news story. And I know that there's an inherent risk with live demos. I have a healthy level of risk tolerance. So to help me with this, I'm just going to bring up one of our teachers. G Unit is our new project manager. He's part of the strategic brand. He's going to play the role of my citizen. And we want to demonstrate this because I think this is a great example of a tool that we can implement quickly, which will have a very direct and significant impact on our operations and citizens. So here goes. Hello, sir. I'm Officer with People on Police. Can you tell me why you called the police today?
इंग्लिश नहीं आती.
1 second, sir.
Translation. Press and hold button, then say, translate to X or auto detect. Then release button.
Auto detect.
Automatic detection enabled.
मुझे अंग्रेजी नहीं आती.
Identified Hindi. I do not know English.
Sir, can you tell me why you called the police today?
सर, क्या आप मुझे बता सकते हैं कि आपने आज पुलिस को क्यों बुलाया?
मेरा हाथ टूट गया है. मेरी बेटी गाड़ी के अंदर बंद है. मुझे मदद चाहिए.
My arm is broken. My daughter is locked inside the car. I need help.
Sir, we have an ambulance coming to check your arm. Now I will go make sure your daughter is safe.
सर, हम आपके हाथ की जांच के लिए एम्बुलेंस बुला रहे हैं और मैं जाकर यह सुनिश्चित करूंगा कि आपकी बेटी सुरक्षित है.
Okay. Into the demo. So currently, an officer finds himself in that situation. They have a few options, but they're all time consuming. We often will, you can look for a family member or a community member who's able to translate. There's issues there. We can't confirm the veracity of the translation. Sometimes, I would say in my experience, most times it's a child that you end up relying on. We can poll our officers and try and find an officer who speaks that dialect. Usually we can't. If we do, there's a time delay. A citizen in that situation, you can only understand or imagine the frustration of needing to get your message across and purvey your information, and you can't. So it's all about increasing our accessibility for the public. So with that, we're happy to take any questions or clarification where we can.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Members, questions? Member Stevenson, floor is yours.
That was pretty amazing. How many languages are available there?
That's a Chris question.
35, I believe. So a long list, 35, yeah.
That is being added to all the time.
Go ahead. please.
Follow up, how many of the officers, like, is there a percentage that will have access to that?
So this is the great thing. We are now fully deployed with our frontline patrol members, emergency response members, K9, road safety section. Every single body cam has that capability, or as soon as we turn it on, we'll have that capability.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So we'll have 450 new interpreters on the road, basically instantly.
Follow up? Members, any other questions? Member Lehman.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I love the live demo. I wouldn't mind seeing more of this family. Because until you see something actually in action. We're going down the wild west of technology right now, and I think we all recognize that that's what's mentioned, that you can't avoid it. This is part of our lives and we'll be going ahead. I feel comforted in a way to see how we are methodic on setting up a structure as we head out in its adventure. I think we've done it from a guidance point of view from the board now down to this step here, where we can actually get to see real world benefits coming right away, which is fantastic, which I think will change policing considerably for the benefit of all. I was also, you were always, every time as you were going, there was certain questions that popped in my mind, but then they were answered. You had already thought about it, which gives me great comfort. For example, reaching out and sharing experiences with other services across Ontario, Canada to get best practices, because as we try the new things, some will work, some won't, and I think that if you operate in a vacuum, you'll be left behind. So there's a great opportunity for all of us to have that shared pool of experiences. So I'm terribly excited about the future with what I see today, kind of leading us in that regard. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Lehman. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, gentlemen, thank you for your presentation. Really appreciate it, and thanks for all the work to deploy this technology. It's fantastic. Chief, is there anything you wanted to add on this before we wrap up?
Yeah, through you. I just wanted to thank the team here. Incredible members, incredible leadership. They have been driving a lot of change in the organization. So thank you on behalf of the executive command team. You guys did a fantastic job. Chair, you will remember Chris Esteban is the awards. That's right. He's a big celebrity here. So
I don't forget.
You can see why. And I just wanted to thank the board for your trust, your investment in this organization with technology, and you can see it firsthand where the investment is going, and ultimately it's supporting the community so we can provide better service to the community and help our officers have modernized tools and equipment. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Chief, and Chris, congratulations again. Inspector Lipsky talks very, very highly of you. So he says you're one of the expert minds behind the deployment of this new technology. So it's really appreciated. Londoners expect a lot from us with the investment that's been made into the service, and we thank you for running this to ground so quickly. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Members, will move on to section number 3, I should say, in your agenda, which falls under financial services. Report 3.1 EMOP Cooperative Purchasing Agreement Diesel Fuel and Gasoline Supply, Report 2605 FF01, and I'll turn it over to our CAO for any context he'd like to provide.
Thank you, Chair. So we provided some context in the closed session. So again, just to go back to this, it's the London Transit Commission RFP on gas and diesel. As mentioned, we as a service, we use about 600,000 liters of gas annually. So this commitment with Suncor allows us to get gas at the price roughly less than 30 cents discount on each liter. So the recommendation is that that's all. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Members, any questions before I read the proposed motion into the record? Seeing none, so the proposed motion in your report before you is to, number 1, approve London Police Service proceeding with the use of the cooperative purchasing agreement resulting from the EMOP diesel fuel and gasoline request for tender RFP 202601 for the supply and delivery of diesel fuel and gasoline, and 2, authorize the signing and execution of the fuel supply agreement between the London Police Service Board and Suncor Energy Products Partnership. Can I have someone move that motion, please? Moved by Member Lehman, seconded by Member Morgan. Any comments or questions or concerns as the motion is provided? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to report 3.2 in your package, the operating budget status, report 2605 FF02. And this report provides the board with the status of the March 31st operating budget and the projected year-end position. It also asks the board to approve closure of London Police Police Service sick leave reserve fund and transfer of remaining balance to the police service reserve fund upon the conclusion of the member's retirement leave period and subject to fund interest allocation adjustments. So with that preamble, I'll turn it again over to the CAO for any information you would like to provide before we look to move toward the recommendations.
Just to clarify that the balance in the sick leave fund is $49,000, so that amount will be transferred because the last eligible member has now retired.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Members, questions on this report? Seeing none, the proposed motion before you is two parts. Number one, to receive the operating budget status March 31st report for information, and two, to approve the closure of the London Police Force Sick Reserve Fund RF051 and the transfer of the remaining balance following the conclusion of the member's retirement leave period on July 31st, 2026, and subject to any final interest allocation adjustments to the London Police Service Reserve Fund RF10100. It being noted that while activity in the sick leave reserve fund will cease and the remaining funds will be transferred with approval of this board motion, physical termination of the fund will not occur until spring of 2027, which will be the next opportunity for municipal council to repeal reserve fund bylaws through the city's annual reserve and reserve fund housekeeping report. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by member Stevenson, seconded by member Lehman. Any comments, questions, or concerns on as motion as it's presented? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to report number 3.3 in your package, mental health crisis response training report number 2605 FF03. This report seeks approval for reserve funding to support mental health crisis response training costs in 2026 and in 2027, including capital and operating costs, procurement approvals, CMHA involvement, and future funding of business cases. This is an important training and resourcing item connected to governance oversight of member training, community safety, crisis response, and long-term financial planning. Once again, turn it over to the CAO for any context you would like to provide.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add, it's also a requirement between CSB Reg 8724 sections 6 and 1 that will be university. And again, it is to meet the requirements of the act, and it really is a necessity for our answers.
Members, any questions on this report before we read the proposed motion into the record? Yes, member Stevenson.
And it mentions that it's required that people be trained by October 1st, 2026. I just wanted to confirm through you that we'll be able to meet that deadline.
Thank you, to the chair. So once the approval gets today, it will filter out the training unit, and our intention is to have it done by the deadline as mentioned.
Perfect. Could we ask if it's not going to be hit? That's reported back to the board.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Further questions on the report? Okay, with four-part proposed motion that I'm going to read into the record, so I'll ask you to bear with me. The motion reads as follows. The number one, we approve the use of the police service reserve fund to support all costs associated with the MHCR training, totaling $22,887 in capital funding and $95,303 in operating funding for 2026. And $232,818 in operating funding for 2027. Should these operating pressures not be absorbable through projected year-end operating surpluses, including approval of the following: A, the binding quote Q2026 435A issued by Street Smarts VR and associated terms and conditions. B, funding for one full-time FTE from the Canadian Mental Health Association for $138,320 and authorization for LPS administration to finalize an MOU with CMHA, and C, the additional identified expenses listed in appendices A and B. Number two, approve the direct purchase of Street Smarts VR as a sole source procurement and CMHA as a single source procurement under section 15 of the LPSB procurement and disposal of surplus property policy. 3, approve LPS administration to submit a business case for permanent funding in the next multi-year budget 2028 to 2031 to secure dedicated funding for the costs associated with MHCR training for future budget years beyond 2027. And 4, approve LPS administration to submit a business case for permanent funding through the 2027 assessment growth process to secure dedicated funding for 1 full-time constable position for MHCR program coordinator / facilitator. On the floor, moved by member Lang, seconded by member Stevenson. Any questions, concerns, or comments on the motion as presented? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 4 in your agenda, under the uniform division, police pursuit statistics annual report. Number 2605 UD01. In a governance context, this annual report supports oversight of vehicle pursuit activity, compliance with board policy, and monitoring of whether procedures, training, and supervisory controls are functioning as intended. The board will now receive the report as outlined. I will turn the item over to Deputy McSween for any narrative you have before any questions. Deputy.
Thank you, through your chair. As noted, as you noted, this report is presented to the board annually per the policy. Last year, the London Police Service is reporting we had 5 vehicle pursuits. Looking over the last 6 years, 5 is on trend with the number of pursuits that we typically have. Last year was an anomaly with only 1. To report, each pursuit that is our officers engaged in is reviewed by our in-house subject matter expert, Sergeant Rick Letourneau, to ensure that there is no training or coaching or policy pieces that were not followed. In this case, 2 of the 5 pursuits, there was compliance with LPS procedure, but 3 of the 5, there was some minor violations of procedures and policies, I should say, that were addressed through coaching and training. Of note, the first pursuit that occurred in 2025 was in relation to the road safety section officers doing some proactive traffic enforcement, and the other 4 pursuits were in relation to officers responding to shootings that were happening here in the city. Happily to report as well that there were no injuries or property damage as a result of any of the pursuits that occurred last year. Subject to any questions, that's a report.
Perfect. Thank you, Deputy. Members, any questions on the report? Seeing none, this is received for information, so no motion is required. Deputy, thank you for that report. We move on to item number 5 in your agenda under the criminal investigation division, the sexual assault investigation annual report 2605 CI01. The board will now receive an overview of the sexual assault investigation annual report, and I turn this item over to Deputy Chief Stephen Flores.
Thank you. Through the chair, you have the report for the board's information, just high level overview. The number of assaults reported to LPS last year increased somewhat from the previous year. I believe to an all-time high in terms of the previous 5 years. But overall, relatively stable. Likewise, in terms of cases, the number of cases or percentage of cases that resulted in a charge or were found to be unfounded, or did not result in a charge as a result of the victim not wishing further action, or there being insufficient evidence, stay roughly the same. Currently, this year, there's at the reporting time, there's a larger number of investigations still open, which might account for some of that variance around the charges late. But other than that, subject to any questions, that's the report from the board's information.
Members, questions? Yes, Member Stevenson.
Thank you, and through you, I just had noticed it's a significant increase in the numbers still under investigation. Wondered if there was any reasons behind that, or it just happened to be the timing.
Deputy.
Through the chair, none specifically. There are some periodic resource issues, and with respect to the number of cases that come in, there might be a correlation there. But something we're looking at to ensure we're off it, but nothing standing out of concern.
Paul? Any other questions, members? Seeing none, there's no motion required to receive this report for information purposes. We'll move on to item number 6 in your agenda under the title of Executive Administration, Professional Standards Branch. The first is 6.1, the Aggregated Disciplinary Measures Report 2605 EA01. The board will now receive this report as required under the Community Safety and Policing Act of 2019. The recommendations ask the board to receive the report under section 215.1 and publish it on the internet under section 215.2A and forward it to the complaints director under section 215.2B. And I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Bastine for any narrative you'd like to provide before I move to a three-part motion.
Thank you, Chair, and through the chair. I know that the report is flagged as for decision. Just to be clear, there is no decision required. It's for the board's information, but with respect to recommendations, those are requirements of the board under the Act. And you have a report, which I believe satisfies this request from the board. Subject to any questions, that's the report for information.
There is a decision, sorry, just a governance change. There's a decision that we have to accept as the board, just on those steps that I outlined that we'll have to do as a formal motion, but that's the decision piece on that particular report. No problem. Members, questions? Yeah, Member Stevenson.
Through you, is this going to be an annual report? Is that the requirement?
I should mention that through the chair. The policy requires, actually, the Act requires that it be published prior to June 1st and December 1st each year. So this is the first time that the board has seen this report. So this goes back to the beginning of the CSPA enactment, which was April 1st, 2024. The next time you see this report will be in November of this year, which will capture between the second half of the year. So you'll see this report twice per year. Moving forward.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, a follow-up. Will we have the historical data going forward? Like, will we be able to see, or is it just going to be the current period each report?
Through the chair, the report does, or sorry, the Act requires that it's quite prescriptive in terms of the data provided. I don't see an issue if it assists the board with incorporating that, much like we have in other reports where we show a snapshot over time. We'll find a way to illustrate that as clearly as we can for the board. That's what you want to see.
I'll see what my colleagues think there, but I know when I see like discipline imposed following hearing requested by chief, I see 3, but I have no context to know whether that's a small number or a big number.
Yeah, maybe it could be done kind of outside the report, even like in appendices or a supplementary cover memo, whatever I think to executive command as to how to present that, but I think it's a reasonable request.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Members, any issues? Seeing that, I don't need a motion for that. I see concurrence on both sides. Members, further questions on this report? Seeing that, okay, we have a 3-part motion that I'll read into the record. It's to receive this report pursuant to section 215-1 of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 for information purposes. 2, publish this report on the internet pursuant to section 215-2A of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019. And 3, forward this report to the complaints director pursuant to section 215-2B of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019. Can I have someone move that, please? Member Lehman, seconded by Member Stevenson. Any further comments or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Great. Moving on to item number 6.2, report 2605 EA02. The board will now receive an overview of Special Investigations Unit, a report from the Special Investigations Unit. The report relates to the Services Administrative Review following an SIU invoked incident under Section 81 of the Community Safety and Policing Act. This is part of the board's statutory oversight obligations following SIU involvement. The board's role isn't to reinvestigate the matter, but to receive the report and confirm that the review has been completed and that any necessary training, procedural, or service delivery issues have been identified and addressed. I will turn over to Deputy Bastine for any information that you would like to provide in additional context from this report.
Thank you. Through the chair, I believe the report is fairly straightforward. State concluded with no criminal charges, and the PSB investigation that followed determined that the subject officers and other officers involved complied with the procedure, and that the procedures in place are appropriate to provide guidance. Subject to any questions, that's the report was received.
Thank you, Deputy. Members, any questions? Seeing none, there's no motion required. We'll receive it for information purposes. We'll move to item number 7 on the open agenda, the Executive Administration Chief's Office, specifically the Inspector General province-wide inspection on integrity and anti-corruption practices readiness report 2605 EA03. This item is one of the key governance items on today's agenda, as I referenced off the top. On February 9, 2026, the Inspector General of Policing announced a province-wide inspection on police integrity and anti-corruption practices. The inspection was announced in response to broader sector concerns about police integrity and public confidence. The IG identified 5 areas of focus: supervision and span of control, screening and vetting, access to police database and information systems, evidence and property management, and substance abuse and fitness for duty. At its February open meeting, this board considered the Inspector General's correspondence and discussed the need for proactive governance measures. The board's role is to ensure right systems, controls, policies, reporting mechanisms, and oversight structures are in place to prevent, detect, and respond to integrity and corruption risks. The February report identified both a board-level policy review and a service-level review as appropriate governance responses. The board and service have not yet been asked to provide materials for the inspection itself, and I do want to reiterate the very important point from February's meeting that this inspection and preparation we are undertaking for it are not in relation to any action by any members of the London Police Service. The board has requested this plan as part of its oversight role and is taking proactive measures to maintain public trust. Since then, the Inspector General has released terms of reference for the inspection and appointed the Honorable William Borgen as inspector. The terms of reference confirm that the inspection applies to Ontario Police Services and Police Service Boards and will examine systems, governance, oversight, operational practices, and controls related to integrity, accountability, and public trust. The Chief's report notes that no immediate action is required pending a formal inspection notice. The report before us today is about readiness, planning, and proactive governance. The board's role in this is around reviewing our own policies and oversight mechanisms to ensure they set clear expectations for the service. The board will need to set expectations around the information needed to identify trends, risks, and systemic weaknesses. The board will also work with the chief and service to ensure a coordinated, comprehensive approach to this review and aligning board policy and standard operating procedures. The chief's report before you responds to the board's motion by setting out an action plan, including methodology, deliverables, concrete timelines, resourcing, preliminary risk areas for review, and inspection readiness planning. The report proposes a phased approach over approximately 12 months with defined quarterly milestones and progress reporting to this board. With that very lengthy preamble, I will turn it over to the chief. Here, excuse myself, I apologize. Chief.
Chair, the report before you responds to the board's previous direction from February following the announcement of the Inspector General of Policing's province-wide inspection into police integrity and anti-corruption practices. As the board recognized, in that direction, this inspection is significant for police governance, public trust, organizational accountability across Ontario's policing sector. The report provides the board with a phased action plan outlining how our service is preparing for and responding to this inspection. Before speaking to the substance of the report, I want to note 2 clarifications for the record. First, where the report references the board's previous motion, that motion was brought forward in February following the Inspector General's initial announcement, not in April. Second, where the report uses the term policy or policy review, the intended reference is to internal London Police Service procedures and operational documents under the responsibility of the executive command team and not to board policy. As part of our transition under the Community Safety and Policing Act, we are working toward more consistent terminology. Historically, internal operational direction has been captured through policies, procedures, SOPs, guidelines, orders, and similar documents. Moving forward, we're working to standardize that language around chief's procedures, recognizing the distinction between board policy and operational procedures under the responsibility of myself. With those clarifications, the full details are contained in the report before you. The inspection is sector-wide and will examine 5 key areas: supervision and span of control, screening and vetting, access to police databases and information systems, evidence and property management, and substance abuse and fitness for duty. In response to the board's direction and consistent with work already underway within this service, we have developed a phased action plan that aligns with the themes identified by the Inspector General. This includes an independent review of frontline deployment and operations, including supervision, staffing, workload, and patrol deployment, a broader organizational and operational restructure to strengthen alignment, accountability, supervision, and service delivery, and ongoing procedure reviews across the organization. This approach reflects the important balance between the board's governance and oversight role and my responsibility as chief to ensure the service is operationally prepared, accountable, and responsive. The phased action plan is intended to ensure the organization is coordinated, evidence-based, and ready as the inspection unfolds. It also supports our broader priorities of community trust, organizational wellness and performance, and community safety. Inspection is not specific to this organization, but it is an important opportunity to demonstrate leadership, strengthen internal systems, and ensure we are well positioned to respond to any future direction from the Inspector General. Subject to any questions, I'm asking the board to receive the report and approve the phased action plan as directed by the board's previous motion.
Thank you, Chief. I'll take a list, members, for any questions for the chief. I'll lead off with Vice Chair Branscombe. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chief, for this. A couple things. I'm glad you clarified because that was glaring at me while I was reading it because we're just in the middle of our governance policy reviews. And so I have a question about that. But first I'll say that I'm very, very pleased that you've been proactive about this. I think even prior to the Inspector General's letter, you had some thoughts about what you needed to do internally and you shared with us. So I'm happy to see this going forward, and I'm sure you'll get the parameters that you need for the report. But nonetheless, whatever you're doing for your own internal reporting is good. Your own internal policies and procedures. The one thing I did want to ask you, though, is we have the governance policies now the board has that are very old and we're right in the middle of that complete transformation, which will be probably completed in the next couple of months. So how are you going to dovetail the work you're doing and starting now with what's likely to be some very, very different direction from our new policy directives? Because I think we've got policies that cover almost everything in the new act. So I just want to be clear about that so we don't hit a bump along the way.
Chief.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I think it's a matter of shifting and being nimble depending on what the policy comes down to. The principles and themes already identified by the IOP won't change, and how we conduct that inspection, it'll be in alignment. I'm fairly confident that it's going to be in alignment with board policy.
Vice Chair Branscombe.
I just want us to keep a close eye on that so that we don't waste anybody's time, not our time developing the new policies, nor the police department and the chiefs and their team for making a bunch of changes or recommendations that don't dovetail nicely with our new policy direction. So I guess I just want that to be a caveat so we don't waste any time. We've got lots of work to do. We don't have time to waste. So.
Thank you. Do you have another question? No? Perfect. All right, members, any other questions for the chief's report? Okay, Member Lane, go ahead.
Yeah, just a comment. A few foundations that police services rests on for a successful organization. One of them, probably the most important, is community trust. And I just want to thank the chief and his administration for responding to the board's direction in this matter with a fulsome action plan. I'm confident that this was thoroughly vetted by you and your team, and I feel confident going forward that we're, doing the necessary steps needed to maintain, I believe we do have, is community trust, but that is always something that we will always have to work on. And I want to thank you for this report. Look forward to hearing what's next. Yes.
Thank you, Member Lehman. Seeing no other comments or questions, there's a motion before you to approve the action plan set out in this report as the chief's response to the board's February motion regarding the Inspector General of Policing's province-wide inspection on police integrity and anti-corruption practices, including the methodology, deliverables, timeline, and resourcing approach, described in the report. Can I have someone move that, please? Moved by Member Lehman, seconded by Member Stevenson. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item number 8 in your open package of verbal updates. I'll lead off. I just wanted to note that we had our most recent swearing in and promotion ceremony a few weeks back at RBC Place. And we had our newest officers joining us on the street, which we are always very happy when we can add to the complement here, since we're catching up from years and years and years of understaffing. And it's also great to celebrate many of our members, sworn members and civilian police professionals, as well as our auxiliary constables for the first time where they were getting their badges. So it was really good to celebrate milestones in their careers with them, and you know, really having the chance to interact with their family and see the pride that that's on their faces. I'll say that for me, it's one of the best things when you see, you know, someone either getting a promotion to a different rank or someone getting sworn in and their little one coming up and grabbing their leg, or their, you know, their parents with tears in their eyes. Though it humanizes the job. And oftentimes I think people look at police and look at the policing profession and kind of forget there's a human behind that badge. And I think I really encourage anyone to attend when they're able. It's very, very good. I also wanted just to note that obviously the Special Olympics student games are in town next week. I'm sure the chief will be speaking about that more in his update, so I'll leave that to him, but we're very happy to have them in London. Our June board meeting for awareness has been rescheduled to July due to some scheduling conflicts. So it'll be July 17th is our next meeting. Just for everyone's awareness. So I know you eagerly await these meetings, so there will not be one in June. May is Mental Health Month as well. As you will see to my right, on the shoulder flashes of our senior command, as well as in the audience, they wear that to recognize that as well. You also see the pins on all the members of the board. So it's obviously a very important issue and something that we're proud to talk about, and make sure that we mark and remind people to speak up if they're having problems, and there's resources available for those that need it. I also just wanted to mention that it was last week as well. It was Police Week in Ontario. So just wanted to thank again everyone from our sworn officers to our civilian police professionals, our auxiliary officers, our volunteers, everyone who associates with the police service and the work that we do as an organization. Just thank you from the board for everything that you do. As a statutory employer, it's not lost on us all that goes into making sure that we can provide public safety in the City of London and continue to do it better than the last day. So thank you very, very much. And on that, I will leave it there, and I will turn it over to Chief Trong for his update.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Just a few updates for the board. Some recognition. So a national honor, Order of Merit of Police Forces. Over to my right here, Deputy Chief Paul Bestien has been appointed to the Order of Merit of the Police Forces, a national honor recognizing exceptional leadership and sustained contributions to policing in Canada. This reflects both his personal commitment to service and the broader strength of leadership within our organization. We're very proud that he is now a recipient. He didn't know I was going to say that.
You could tell.
And then the Special Olympics Law Enforcement Torch Run. There's recognition to Constable Michelle Serpa. She's been recognized through the OACP Torch Run Awards for her outstanding contributions in support of Special Olympics. Her work continues to strengthen the positive relationship between policing and the community. She's been a long time supporter of Special Olympics. So it's a really great recognition for her. And Detective Jessica Burt has been recognized by York Regional Police with the Chiefs Award for her work on Project Wrangler, demonstrating the impact of our members beyond our jurisdiction and the value of interagency collaboration. So you'll recall Project Wrangler was a joint forces operation with us, York Regional Police, Peel, OPP, and we were linked because that involved the LHSC shooting and the emergency room department. So very complex investigation, multi-jurisdictional, and congratulations to Detective Jessica Burt. As you mentioned, next week, the Special Olympics Ontario School Championships, it will be all next week. The service continues to support the upcoming championships being hosted here. This reflects our ongoing commitment to inclusion, youth engagement, community partnerships. It has been identified as an event of interest to everyone. So we're really excited. It's going to bring a lot of tourism to the city, and a lot of our members are volunteering with respect to the event. I thank the board for your support, Chair, and I know that I'll see you there next week as well as the mayor, who will be engaged. And just a shout out to Sergeant Scott Burt for his involvement and his leadership on coordinating this with Special Olympics. It's a daunting task, as you all well know. And then we had Chief for the day. Chair, thank you for swearing the chief in. We had Chief Lincoln join us for the day. He got a taste of making some big decisions as a chief, and he was in the community with us. It attracted a lot of attention as we took him to Masonville Place, and there's a lot of community that were engaged. So I want to, officially thank Masonville Place and Sandra, who runs the mall, and all the partners who participated. The chief said to us that he'll never forget that day. So great impact and investment to kids in the community. We'll continue this program because it's fantastic. Then I just want to recognize all of our members who recently attended a number of important memorial events, including the Ontario Police Memorial in Toronto, as well as memorials honoring members of the Ontario Provincial Police and QPP. So there's two officers, as you're aware, that were killed in the line of duty. Our officers and our organization attended and represented, and as well as member Lang from the board. He joined us in those in the funeral with the OPP officer as well. So meaningful. Thank you for the board support and acknowledging our members in that regard. Subject to any questions, so the chief's verbal updates.
Further members and questions? Seeing none, item 9 on the agenda, any new business? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by member Stevenson, seconded by member Morgan. Anyone opposed? That's carried. We adjourn at 2:43 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy it.